So welcome everybody to the September 8th edition of the Startup Monterey Bay Tech Meetup. Thank you all for joining us on this evening. And let's roll forward. Driving tonight, we have Lynette Lathrop, who's a great driver. And she promises she's not been drinking any alcohol, so she's a safe driver. So we have a welcome poll going here. So if everybody would chime in on the poll, that would be great. So just in case you might have missed it, we're on Zoom tonight. And just a couple things on Zoom. You can ask questions using the Q&A. Actually, there's no Q&A icon, is there, on this one? No, so you can put your questions in chat and we'll all be able to see them. You also are able to speak. We're using Zoom meeting rather than Zoom webinar tonight. We'll see how that works. It does mean that we have the opportunity for multiple people to be speaking at once, so please manage that so we don't have too many at once. You can, in chat, if you want, you can send private messages also by selecting the name of the participant you want to speak to, or you can select everyone and speak to all of us. We do ask that you keep your microphone muted, except when you are speaking. Dogs are fun, but they do make a mess out of meetings when we get a few of them talking to each other during the meeting. Just a note, we are recording this webinar. We will make this webinar available later. If you do not want to be recorded, you can turn off your camera and obviously turn off your microphone, just so everybody knows. Let's see, we seem to have closed the poll and we're sharing the results. First timers, we have 19 first timers and 13 who have attended before, which is pretty normal for how the tech meetups go. Where are we from? Let's see, Monterey County, Santa Cruz County. We got a good chunk from Santa Cruz. We've got one person in from San Benito. Thanks for traveling all the way from San Benito. And we have 8 from somewhere else. Always cool to find out who is from the furthest place away. Not that in Zoom land it really matters, but who thinks they're the furthest away? Anybody want to take a shot? I have a suspicion. So Michael, you're coming in from Ann Arbor, Michigan, is that right?
Actually, I'm not. I'm coming in from Vine Hill Road, just north of Scotts Valley. I live off Highway 17.
Oh, okay.
But I have not yet returned to campus. Gonna wait and see what happens there.
Got it. I knew you were going to Michigan, but you know, of course, in these days, that doesn't mean that you have to be at Michigan. So he's not the furthest away. Anybody further away than San Benito County? No?
Scott's from Sacramento.
Yeah, I'm from Sacramento, but I didn't know how close San Benito was, so to where you guys are.
No, it's about a third of the way to Sacramento. So yes, you're the winner.
In my mind, I'm in Kauai.
I'm not quite sure whether that's true or you're pulling our leg, Doug. All right. So, oh, wait a minute. Did you all see the results? I'm not sure whether they had shown up as visible or not. All right. Make this go away. There we go. All right. So our sponsors, the IP Society and Angel to Exit, are sponsors, and those folks can Fred, you want to say hello? You were on here earlier.
Hi there, I'm Fred. I'm from Angel to Exit. We help grow companies. And hey, let's have a great time.
Cool. Excellent. And I'm not seeing in a scan, I'm not seeing anybody from the IP Society. If there is, speak up. If not, that's cool. And also Blue Tech Valley and the Blue Tech Valley Accelerator. If you're doing an energy or ag related project, Blue Tech Valley Accelerator is something you ought to take a look at. If you're interested, reach out to us. We can help connect you with them. Startup Monterey Bay, that of course is us, and California State University Monterey Bay, that's us too. On to next. What do we got? Welcome to the meetup. We're here to network, and wow, you can network with lots of people at the same time. And someday we'll see each other in person again. Share and learn. We have some great presenters tonight. I'll introduce those folks in a moment. We'll find out what's happening in our neighborhood around entrepreneurship, and above all, building a community of entrepreneurs who can support each other and support entrepreneurship going forward in the region. I keep wanting to change my slides. Lynette, next slide. I'll just say click.
Are you sharing slides?
So the Tech Meetup team, myself, Mary Jo Zank. Say hello, Mary Jo.
Hi there.
You'll meet Mary Jo again in a moment when she does her quiz. Dan Ripke. Dan, are you out there? There you are. Say hello.
I am.
Cool. And Dr. Jenny Kwan. I don't think Jenny's on. I haven't seen her. Say hello if she is. Selena Harris, who I believe is not here. Lynette Lathrop, who is driving. Say hello, Lynette.
Hi, everyone.
And Nina Cornelius, who organizes the Tech Meetup, student intern. Say hello, Nina. Nina.
You may be in class.
Oh, I see. The name I saw as Nina Cornelius is actually the next guy. Everybody is showing up as Nina Cornelius now.
What's going
Kenneth
on?
Olson. Say hi,
Hey, guys.
Kenneth. This is very funny. So we're going to play a game later tonight called Which is the Real Nina Cornelius?
This is
All
kind of
right.
like Hollywood Squares, Brad.
It is. And guess the person behind the name. So we have some really cool presenters tonight. We have Michael Seekend, who's a student entrepreneur from Santa Cruz, from Scotts Valley, of course. But he is going to school at the University of Michigan, which is my alma mater, which is very cool. We have Scott Rogalski of the Small Business Development Center. Carolyn Jones, who is with Joby Aviation. Some of you may have heard of Joby Aviation. Very, very cool company who's having a little bit of a hot time of it right now, but we'll let her explain when we get there. And Richard De Andrade, who is a longtime participant in many of what we've been doing. He's going to tell us about some of the cool things he's doing when he's not doing iiED. So on to what's next. I don't know that we're going to get away with doing intros. It'll take us a little while to get through the crowd because we've got a pretty good crowd. But we'll give people hopefully a chance to get in. Let's go forward to announcements. The
Hey,
quiz
Brad.
is up next. Yes, sir.
Brad, for the
Yep.
intros, how about if everybody puts their email address and their name into the chat box?
Okay.
And maybe something about you.
That's a great idea, Fred. So if you put a little one sentence intro about you into the chat box, if you want to put your email address in there, it is making it public. So I'm not going to officially ask for email addresses, but if you want people to be able to reach out to you, that's great. And that is a great way. And then when people get bored, they can read the chat and see who is out there, but nobody's going to have a chance to get bored. Certainly in the not in the next 5 minutes. So Mary Jo, it's time for our monthly news quiz.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. So the first question is, next slide. All right. A Santa Cruz startup company specializing in first of all, let me explain because some of you are new. I'm pulling these questions from local newspapers like the Monterey Herald, but also Santa Cruz Tech Beat, and also from our news site on our Startup Monterey Bay website. So if you're following the news about local entrepreneurs, you might be able to answer one of these questions. All right, so there'll be a poll question and you get to choose one of your best guess. All right, so the first question is, a Santa Cruz startup company specializing in ocean monitoring and forecasting recently announced its partnership with Grieg Seafood ASA, a global leader in salmon farming and sustainable practice. What is the name of this startup company? Embari, Scoot Science, Ocean Odyssey, or Clean Ocean Project? We're still collecting. Okay, I think people have pretty much guessed. All right, let's end the polling. The answer is, the majority feels it's Scoot Science, and the answer is Scoot Science. Also wanted to point out that this company was one of our Startup Challenge contestants and was a runner-up in the 2016 Startup Challenge. Next slide. All right, which startup company specializing in online education just announced a new partnership with the Alum Rock Union School District in San Jose? Edutopia, Levered Learning, or Chess Club? Come on, let's guess.
Wow, it's all over the place. Right now,
Okay.
Levered Learning is out in front. Edutopia is coming up on them though.
All right, let's end the polling now. So Levered Learning is the majority, and the answer is Levered Learning. Levered Learning was also a Startup Challenge participant and was one of the runners up this year. And next slide. All right, this one's a little bit more challenging. You have to have read Santa Cruz Tech Beat to follow this. All right, which new member of the board of directors of the Foundation for Cal State University Monterey Bay was involved with the early startup weekends that we run? All right, here's a quick hint. He was a member of Apple's team that launched the Macintosh personal computer in the 1980s. Okay, and our choices are Bud Colligan, Steve Wozniak, Michael Scott, or Ronald Wayne. It's looking like a tie. Looks like a horse race here. Any more? Okay, end polling. Okay, so the guess is Steve Wozniak. Let's see what the result is. Bud Colligan. Okay, Bud's a local guy from the Santa Cruz area, has been very involved with, not just with us, but with Monterey Bay Economic Partnership. So he's a good guy to follow. All right, that's all the questions we have this month. Stay in tune, stay up to date. We've got a lot of interesting places where you can find news. That's right, I need to follow, Santa Cruz Works also publishes news, so.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you very much for another exciting quiz. And let's roll forward. Here we go. Upcoming events. And drum roll, please. Coming up in, I think this is like a week after next, coming up is the fall Z-Hacks. Doug, you want to say a little bit about Z-Hacks?
Okay. This is an incredible event for our region. As most people know, hackathons are typically for coders, and we decided in this day and age that it was important to be inclusive. So you don't have to be a coder to participate in this one. You can be an artist, musician, you name it. Any form of creativity to participate in the project themes of environment, social justice, and pandemic. And you have to be, participants must be in school of any age. But if you want to be a mentor, you don't necessarily have to be in school. So you can join as a mentor, just list your skill, which who knows, you know, if it's like Brad, it could be coming up with really cool places to go drinking. I think I've seen some good screenshots of that. So there you go.
Very cool. And so if they want to register, they go to zhacks.devpost.com. It's an online hackathon, of course. Starts on September 19th, which is a Saturday coming up, and extends through the 25th.
I'll put the URL in the chat.
Oh, that'll help. People can click on it. Okay. Another event coming up shortly, the Thrive Demo Day is happening on September 24th. You can't register to pitch, but you can register and go and listen to the pitches. They'll have great companies pitching there for ag tech, pitching for funding. And that's September 24th, starts at 9 a.m. in the morning. And the URL is right there at the bottom of the slide. Whoop. Here I am trying to make my slide go forward. Thank you.
Hey, Brad, can you copy the URL into the chat box so we can click it?
I actually cannot, but Lynette can, maybe.
Excellent.
Oh no, Lynette's moved forward in the slide. Somebody who has access to the slides live. I'm actually working off just the screen. We'll get it there some way. Mary Jo should be able to reach to it. Okay, also coming up at the end of the month is this year's Startup Investment and Community Capital Expo. Interestingly, we have the founder of the Startup Investment Expo on with us tonight. Fred Cohen originally came up with this idea some little over 4 years ago now. And we've been running it the last couple of years. This has turned out to be a real winner of an event in the region. So this is, as its name implies, an investment event. Companies will be pitching for investment. We also have some really cool keynote speakers for each day. Let's roll forward and take a look at those folks. So Monday morning, we're going to kick this off with Guy Kawasaki. Don't miss Guy's talk. He's always entertaining, a serious guru in the field of entrepreneurship. Then Tuesday morning, we're going to kick it off with Congressman Jimmy Panetta, who is the congressman for our area down here. And he's going to be talking about, actually, he won't be talking about equity crowdfunding. He's going to be speaking to recovery in COVID and what the environment looks like from the viewpoint of the Congress here. And then on Wednesday morning, we'll kick it off with Ben Jealous, former head of the NAACP. Ben Jealous, for any of you who don't know, grew up around here. He actually grew up in Seaside. So he's coming back for a return engagement. So that should be 3 really engaging speakers to kick off each day. And those speakers will be followed by panel discussions. On Monday, we have recovery as the topic for the panel. On Tuesday, equity crowdfunding will be the topic for the panel discussion, and Wednesday, it will be inclusivity in funding, and we actually have 2 separate panels on that on Wednesday. And let's go to the next slide. Then following the keynote and the panels will be companies pitching to panels of investors. We have 6 companies pitching each day, and we do have a couple of slots open. So if you're interested in pitching to raise funding for your company, you can apply to pitch at siccmonterey.com. Very good. Next, Get Virtual. And I'm going to turn this over to Kenneth to talk about Get Virtual. Are you out there, Kenneth?
How's it going, guys?
Go.
Cool. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. So Get Virtual is an initiative that came to CSUMB. Brad actually was able to teach a class and integrate it into his entrepreneurship class. It's mainly just local businesses that are affected by COVID-19, and we have a group of student volunteers that are kind of helping these businesses move to a virtual platform online. So we do a lot of SEO, SEM, market research and implementations, and website design, social media marketing, email marketing, all that. And now we are currently live at CSUMB and looking for volunteers. So if you know anyone that's interested in this type of work, send them our way. It'd be awesome. I'll leave a little link to the application form in the chat too.
Excellent.
We're also looking for companies that need this kind of help.
Yes.
Yeah,
Spread the
so
word.
if you know of a small business locally that really can't afford to have their own designer and stuff to get themselves set up on the internet, please have them sign up at getvirtual.org.
So in Get Virtual now covers Santa Cruz County, the UCSC students working up there, and we've got Monterey County and San Benito County covered with CSUMB. There's also a chapter up at Santa Clara, and it's expanding out from there. Okay, on to the next one. So we have a dedicated page on our website for COVID-19 support. If you are, a company who needs support in surviving, whether it's through programs like Get Virtual or guides to where to get financial assistance, our webpage, if you go to startupmontereybay.com, you go to the COVID-19 resources for startups. Okay, very good. All right, and now, without further delay, let's go to our speakers. And who are we starting with, Lynette?
We have Michael first.
Okay, so we're going to start with Michael Seekand, who we briefly introduced a little bit earlier. And incredible, he's not just a student entrepreneur, he's a student entrepreneur extraordinaire, and is now a junior at the University of Michigan. And he's here to talk about a venture that he's involved with. So with that, I'm going to let you take this away, Michael.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I think it's awesome to be part of this community. And Brad, it's great to finally be connected with you because you are a Michigan alum. So go blue. About me, I'm from Santa Cruz, California, born and raised. I went to high school. I actually first went to Gateway, for any families who might know about that school. Then I went to Harker in San Jose. And I finished out high school at Robert Louis Stevenson in Pebble Beach. So I got exposed to every part of this amazing region that we live in. I think it's really shaped who I am. Now I'm a junior at University of Michigan Ross School of Business. And when class got canceled and I came home because of COVID-19, I committed myself to a mission for my childhood bedroom, which I'm sitting in today and is my studio. And that's to make the business world more exciting, interesting, and accessible to young people. So what I'm building is a next-gen media brand that inspires young people to pursue business success. I host a podcast called Our Future, where I interview some of the most successful business leaders on this planet, but through the perspective of a 20-year-old kid with a ton of energy and a ton of ambition. And it's short, 15-minute episodes makes it really innovative. I also host a newsletter where every Sunday you hear from 3 executives at awesome companies, and you get to go beyond the headlines. You get to hear about what these executives are kind of saying. It's kind of the human story behind these huge headlines you read about all the time. We just sold out all of our sweatshirts, and we have a huge social media following, and we're also starting a consultancy for brands who want to get into Gen Z. Now, the main thing I want to talk about is Seedstages, which is my second mission in making the business world more accessible to young people. And that's getting students working for startups. So if Lynette, you don't mind going to the next slide, I can talk about that. So students are super eager to work for startups, and now more than ever. Why? Because we saw big companies cancel their internship programs this summer, and it was crazy. All these super smart students were displaced. So I started connecting people I knew to startup founders that I would interviewed on the podcast. And it turned out to be awesome. I was connecting all these kids for internships, and startups can really benefit from kids like us, you know, high octane, we're raw, we've got energy, we know social media, we know how to position your brand. And that kind of goes back to what Get Virtual is doing on the college level. Students can do a lot for businesses. So what we discovered is that there's no dedicated job platform connecting students and startups. So we built one, and one that makes it really easy for startups to recruit students. Very frictionless, very easy, connect with students directly in our app. So if you go to the next slide, I want to show some screenshots of the application. So yeah, we're connecting students in a fun, fast, and frictionless platform. We're cutting right through the fluff. Startup founders can engage directly with student talent. Instead of looking through a huge thing of resumes that you might throw out on Indeed.com, you can literally message with a student that might be super passionate about working for your company. And it just makes it really easy to get that hiring decision made. We want to change it from 30 days to 3 days. You know, this kid is super passionate. They want to intern for my company. Let's get him started in like literally a day. Let's get a Zoom call going. There's never been a better time in history for startups to recruit students because of gap years, because of this remote workforce. Startups have access to a nationwide talent pool for the first time. And finally, big companies kind of dropped the ball. Students are now looking to work for startups because, you know, opportunities at larger corporations aren't really available as much as they used to be. I'm going to go to the next slide. So in our app, students can create profiles showing their university, their skills, some information about them. And startups can post opportunities. And then it all culminates through messaging where the student can talk to the startup founder or hiring representative in the app and get started on the next steps or to move forward in the process. So you go to the next slide. It's just like a quick video of the functionality. We modeled it off Tinder. It's for students, you know, by students, to make it a really seamless and frictionless experience. Go to the next slide. So our number one priority right now is filling our app with exciting opportunities. We have so many students, technical, business, software engineering, development, social media, marketing, pretty much everything. And they want to be unleashed at your business. They want to work for startups. It is starting a business this summer. It's been the best education of my life in people, in media, in all these different spaces. And I just want other students to experience that, especially as, you know, traditional education kind of seems less attractive to so many students. Working for a startup is the best education a student can get. And that's why we want to connect them. We have a very, very, very talented team with a lot of great advisors. CEO is Boris Gorshin, other co-founder is Ian Hafkenscheel, both incredible guys. And we're really looking forward to growing this and creating a community of the smartest and most ambitious students in the world who want to get involved with startups. Thank you so much for allowing me to present. I know I don't have that much time, but thank you, Brad. Thank you, Lynette. And also shout out Doug Erickson, who's been instrumental in my journey so far, and Richard DeAndrade, who's become a great friend recently.
Very cool. Thanks, Michael. There's a couple of questions that have shown up in the chat, and if others have questions, go ahead and add them into the chat. So one question here around legal requirements and dealing with the legal issues around hiring and legal requirements for hiring student internships, backgrounds, other information like that. How are you handling those things?
So you might be, when you're talking about legal requirements for hiring student interns, you might be thinking of how a high school student, if they want to intern, they have to get a work permit. A college student doesn't have to get any work permit if it's like an internship engagement entering into that process. It's not integrated into university programs. We are partnering with universities to market it, but it's more individual students who want to supplement their education with working for a startup. We have 3 lawyers on our team. So in terms of walking you through any of that, the legal process to hiring interns, we are there for you, and I can direct you to them for any more questions.
Very cool. So Michael, we're going to make sure that we get this integrated into Startup Monterey Bay here, because this is the kind of functionality we've been talking about for a long time. It's very cool. Do you have some universities that you've integrated this into at this stage?
So the founders, Boris and Ian, they both went to Claremont McKenna, and our head of biz dev, Giacomo Di Pasquale, is also at CMC. So we have a really strong start there down south. And we would absolutely love to work with schools like CSUMB and UC Santa Cruz to get students exposed to this app, because come on, Zoom University is just not that engaging. It would be awesome to supplement remote school with an exciting internship at a startup. I think that's just a winning combination. And I'd love to partner with any schools that are interested to extend upon our work with CMC right now.
Cool.
So Brad, if you don't mind.
Yep.
I'm just trying to understand, is this just a social media connector app, or is this something that actually facilitates the execution of being hired and working for a company, and facilitates the company side of hiring these interns and protects everybody's rights, intellectual property rights? There's all sorts of things involved in this, as well as legal requirements for paying people, not being exploitive of the students and so forth.
Right. So the future of the platform is having that all integrated into it. Right now, with our MVP, our app is live. We just got it out there. It's being developed and changed every day. But the future of it is being able to exchange files within the app to actually deliver work products and manage the interns. Because managing interns is hard, right? Sometimes, right? Because students sometimes need their hand held for a bit, but being able to manage all that in a platform where there can be accountability on both sides and transparency, that is the future of the platform. But right now, we're just trying to get students some amazing opportunities at startups this fall, especially as many of them are taking gap years and want to start getting involved with other stuff because, remote classes aren't as engaging as they thought they would be.
If you're handling the communications, then you're going to have all sorts of legal requirements related to confidentiality and not just of the work product, which has legal potentials, but also the personally identifiable information of the people and so forth.
I think those are great questions to explore. And the fact that we have 3 lawyers on our team makes me very confident that we can address all those questions that you just raised.
Very cool. Thank you very much. Well done, Michael. Great to have you a part of what we're doing here. I do strongly recommend Michael's podcast to y'all. And I put a link to the podcast into chat there so you can get to it. Thanks very much again. Let us roll forward. Who do we have up next? Scott Rogalski of the SBDC. And to introduce Scott, we have Cindy Merzon of the Cal Coastal SBDC. Cindy, it's all yours.
Thanks, Brad. Hello, everyone. My name is Cindy Merzon. I'm the director of the Cal Coastal SBDC, also known as the Small Business Development Center. We provide one-on-one business consulting and training for business owners and prospective business owners in Monterey and San Benito counties, and it's no cost to you. So definitely think about signing up for help if you need it. I'd like to introduce you to Scott Rogalski, a man who lives and breathes finance. He's the director of the Northern California SBDC Finance Center. Scott plays a key role in strategic program planning and development for capital infusion, and brings a creative, tech-driven approach to connecting hard-to-find capital resources small business owners need for businesses to grow and to expand. So over the last 12 years, Scott's been fostering key lender relationships to provide better access for small businesses. His contributions to the NorCal SBDC include the development of a top lenders database featuring hundreds of SBA lenders across the country, regional and local banks, credit unions, and investor groups, aimed at providing a one-stop shop for business owner facing financing or capital challenges. So Scott, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Cindy. Thanks for the great introduction. It's great to have a fellow SBDC person on the call because you understand exactly what we do. And most people have no idea that what we do is 100% no cost since we're federally and state funded in the state of California. And Cindy went over her territory. My territory is the most northern 36 counties of the state. We go from the Oregon border down the coast to Santa Cruz. We cover all 9 counties of the Bay Area. We go southeast to Stockton, then back up through the Nevada and the Oregon border. And as you learned from Cindy, I do nothing but dabble in helping businesses access capital, whether you're a startup or you're existing. And it's challenging and it's also fun at times. So it's good to be here. Thanks for the invite. Thank you also. Shouts out to Dan Ripke, who is actually the gentleman who got me into SBDC. So I owe all my success to Dan Ripke. All right, so next slide. So quick agenda. I also don't have a lot of time. I wanted to say real quick, shouts out to Michael for speaking. Did a great job. I'd love to hear more about your product later on. And if you're looking for capital, I'm here and Cindy's here as well. But disclaimer, EIDL and PPP parameters, loans that currently exist in this crazy COVID world, financials needed, some great questions to ask lenders and yourself, assumptions, and then how we can help in Q&A. All right, so quick disclaimer, things are changing all the time. We kind of have to say that because things are changing all the time. And this information was correct when I put it together, but it may change depending on what the state, the feds, or the treasury does. But PPP, Paycheck Protection Program, it ended on August 8th. They are talking about relaunching a new one, but they haven't done it yet. EIDL is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. It's the SBA direct loan that if you started your business before January 31st of this year, you qualify for the EIDL loan, which is great. If you're a nonprofit, 501c3, 4 or 6, then you also qualify for that. And please don't hesitate to apply for the EIDL if you've already started your business before January 31st. There is a bunch of money out there still for you to take advantage of. Next slide. Not sure how many of you, through the chat, we can figure this out later, you can reach out to me, but how many of you applied for PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program? It's a 1% loan. It's either 2 years or 5 years, depending on when you got it. You don't have to make a payment until 10 months after your covered pay period, which was 8 weeks or 24 weeks. And a bunch of other jargon on here. We don't have a whole lot of time to go over this. But the Paycheck Protection Program was money given to you by banks, guaranteed by SBA, and the loan parameters were written by the Treasury. So it's kind of a very different loan product, never been around before. EIDL is Economic Injury Disaster Loan. This is direct money from SBA to you as a business owner. And it's 3.75% for 30 years. It's a great loan. You don't have to make a payment until after the first 11 months. There's personal guarantee if you got over 200 grand and over 25 grand, they ask for some sort of collateral. Both loans you're not allowed to use for expansion. You're not allowed to use for growth or expansion, and it won't be forgivable. The PPP can be potentially 100% forgivable if you spend it appropriately on payroll, utilities, rent, interest, mortgage payments. Next slide. All right, so loans that currently exist. COVID kind of messed up a lot of things for loans for those of you who are trying to access capital. I'm only really talking about debt capital, but there is also obviously tech capital, equity capital, crowdfunding capital. But there's a lot of fintech, financial technology lenders that have come up out of nowhere, really out of the woodworks, for PPP and other types of lending placement. So Lendio is probably the leader. Lendio, Square Capital is another one, Cabbage, a bunch of other online fintech lenders that were able to get money to businesses within a day, very fast, at very affordable rates, not like before COVID where they were in the 20s to 100%. there is still money out there for startups, regardless of what you hear. There's still money out there for startups, for either regional banks, community banks, nonprofit lenders. There's a lot of loans out there from cities and counties, whether it be through Santa Cruz County or other counties, Monterey. There's direct monies that you might be able to get to between 1 and 50,000. There's some small microloan direct funds that are accessible throughout the state in different areas that are very easy to get. They're not through banks, so they fund fairly quickly. And then, so SBA is federal guaranteed. There's also state guaranteed loans that you can get that make it easier for banks to give money. Next slide. So most loans are SBA backed, Small Business Administration. If you were one of the lucky few that was able to get a loan before September 27th, between March and the end of this month, SBA paid the payment for the first 6 months, which is awesome. But most loans are 10 years, they're SBA 7As, the rates are between 6 and 8%. It takes about 30 to 90 days to get it from the time that you apply. These are great loans for startups. Most banks will do about $150,000 for a startup loan. There's a lot that depends on the lender, the rate, the collateral, how fast you can get it, and if they take projected income. So a lot of startups, if you're a tech startup and you're on the phone, there is money out there for projected based loans. If you're kind of like, you have a run rate and then eventually in 2021 you'll make some money, there are loans out there for you. Next slide. So financials needed. This is the most boring part about applying for a loan, besides the dauntingness of going to a bank and actually talking to a banker that doesn't know what they're talking about. But for startups, it's all the same thing that you normally need. You need a business plan, a pitch deck, projections, assumptions. If you have a job or you had a job, personal taxes and pay stubs help, and then a list of personal assets. And as an existing business, depending on how long you've been around, if you were created in 2019, then you at least have existence in 19, maybe taxes in 19. So last couple of years of business and personal taxes, a personal financial statement is also very common to be asked for. And then even though 2020 is like what nobody thought, you still have to give a year-to-date income statement and balance sheet of what you have been able to accomplish in 2020. And then if you're an existing business, lenders are also looking for expansion plans and projections and assumptions. Next slide. So great questions to ask yourself and that lenders are going to ask you is, where were you projected before COVID? We all know what happened to COVID with COVID, but it may be different per your industry. So if you're a restaurant, we know what happened with that. If you're a tech company, depending on the industries that use your tech platform, then it may or may not have been as impacted. But how much money were you able to capture back? You know, what did you do from January to when the world closed? And what have you been able to do since it reopened? Unless that never happened to you because your tech platform just kind of, worked through the closure of what the world did. And then how much money you're going to make month to month. It's really important to know that. It's very important for you to know your numbers and the assumptions behind the numbers and what make them up. And that's what lenders are really looking forward to knowing from you. Next slide. So assumptions, again, lenders that are giving money to businesses right now, whether it's tech or non-tech, is they really want to know, what do you know about your business, your trends, your industry, what's going to happen, what has happened at the beginning of the year, what happened when COVID happened, what happened now that we're kind of sort of getting off COVID, and what is going to happen in 2021. So lenders really want you to have like a crystal ball. They want you to bring it in and tell them what the future looks like for your business and for your industry and where it's going. And if you can convey that in a story, in a pitch, in a business plan, projections that you can back up by knowing your numbers, that's what lenders are really looking for right now. Next slide. And then how SBDCs can help, Small Business Development Centers. So Cindy's network, my network, we're here for you at no cost. What we do in Northern California, we can do a quick fundability test, make sure and see if you're funded. Lenders don't get paid to just take applications or have conversations with you. They really want to run your credit and kind of go through the process. At SBDC, we can have a conversation, and we can pretty much pre-qualify you for a business loan, which is something that you can't do out in the traditional market. You can't just go qualify for a business loan like you can a home loan. But we can do that for you. We can help you pre-qualify for a business loan without running your credit. If you have horrible credit, we can help you write a letter that makes it look a little better. We can kind of help you collect and organize your financials. So essentially like help package your loan. We can work with you and help you complete business plans, expansion plans, pitch decks, assumptions with projections. And then we can also introduce you to lenders. We don't play favorites, but we do have a widespread variety of lenders, scope of lenders that we can go to. And we can also help you place the capital with those lenders, do quick introductions, say, hey, this is the best lender or lenders for you to go work with, and then kind of help you walk through that process so that you're not alone, that we don't just throw you out there and say, good luck. All right, next slide. And I think, yeah, that's everything. So we can go to Q&A. I know that was fast. You guys just learned everything I learned in, 7 minutes. That took me 15 years to learn. So there you go.
Very cool. Thank you, Scott. If you've got questions, you can jump in or put them into the chat. There is one question in chat, some character put in there. You had on your one slide that the SBA doesn't accept or deny loans. That's up to the lender. But there is an SBA process for assessing and accepting whether they're going to put the guarantee on the loan or not. Is that correct? And how do people think about that?
Yeah, so initially, yes, that's correct. But SBA won't say, hey, we deny you because of this. The bank has to approve, the lender has to approve the loan first, and then go to SBA and say, hey, we want to approve this. We just want you to guarantee it because we don't want to do it all by ourselves. So technically, SBA doesn't decline or approve any loans. They just guarantee it. SBA wants to do loans. They do about $5 billion a year in the state of California as far as guaranteed loans. So they want to do loans. It's usually up to the lender. If you were declined by a lender and they said it was SBA, they pretty much lied to you. It's actually the lender doesn't want to do the loan, but they just didn't want to tell you that they don't want to do the loan.
Got it. Absolutely. So the SBA loan program is an amazingly effective economic program. It pays back multiple dollars for every dollar that the government invests in it. And as Scott just pointed out, the government is actually not lending the money, just providing and it's a partial guarantee to the banks. Any other questions for Scott? All right. Very good. Thank you very much, Scott. That's really important information, especially these days.
Thank you, Brad.
Absolutely. And Lynette, let's roll. Who's next? Richard Andrade. Richard, are you out there? So
I think I'm here.
you think you're there?
Well, actually, I am here. Hold on, let me just turn on my video. There we go. That's better. I'm here.
Well,
Thanks, everybody, for.
appears to have suddenly changed to a few thousand miles from where you were a moment ago.
Well, I'm working on that time travel stuff in my brain, so that's where I'd rather be. And I thought, it's a nice view instead of just kind of having a view of what's out my window, which isn't bad. But I thought, a tropical Caribbean island might be better served than, just the background of my office that was on before.
Well, fabulous. Well, we're excited to hear about one of the things that you're up to. I know that one of a very large number of things that you're up to, in addition to being involved with our programs and on the advisory board for the College of Business at CSUMB. Richard's been a fabulous guy and also helped rescue, would you say it was 240 horses?
Yeah, actually, the number was up. We had a total of about 320 animals that we pulled out of the recent fires and that were affected between the river fire and the Carmel Valley fire, in the local area. My better half's with the Marina Equestrian Center, and we're on call for the SPCA. So whenever they have emergencies, we basically just get on board and go out there and take the rigs out and bring animals so they can be safe, because when people's houses are burning, it's sometimes hard to gather up their pets and livestock. So, we help with that best we can.
Very cool. So, Richard, tell us what you got.
Sure. So what do we have today? So I'm going to present today a little bit about one of our companies called Solare Trace. It's a software company. The application's called 1 Meter. And, Lena, if you go to the next slide, I can tell you guys about what we are and what we do. So what do? We're a software company. I was saying we bring item level traceability with workforce and yield optimization to the agricultural industry. So if you think about, for example, a company like Driscoll's or Giant Berries. So if you go to Safeway and you buy a little box of or a clamshell of berries, using our system, we can tell you exactly where in the field that came from, who picked it, date, time, all that stuff, and a bunch of other field and productivity data. And it's a SaaS company. We provide that through the cloud. We connect into mobile devices and so on to make the application run. For a producer, the system would monitor all of the data that I said before, plus the field workers and also the field supervisors and so on. Their time monitoring. So right now, a lot of that is being done with paper punch cards and so on. So we're taking it to another level. Yes, I know it's 2021. Well, 2020, that's how much I want to get past 2020 into 21. But there are some, actually quite a lot of agricultural operations that still use paper punch cards. So Lynette, can you go to the next slide, please? So, as far as the problem we're solving, food safety is a critical thing. It's mandated by the produce areas as well as the USDA, and depending on uses, FDA has something to say about that. Right now, there are some things that are not, in terms of visibility, that aren't available. We, basically get the first meter of the product movement and availability of that product and a lot of other data within the first meter in the field, which is the granularity is lacking. And then we found that the employers as well as the employees needed better tools to prevent fraud. So there's a distrust between the employees in terms of getting paid. So, a lot of them get paid piece rate, and sometimes the count is wrong. The employee thinks they're getting more or less, and the employer thinks more or less. So there's some discrepancies there. We felt that, okay, if we can solve that issue with our system, then it helps quite a bit to preserve transparency and kind of act like a referee. Another big thing is safety recalls. So, I don't know what the latest one is, but it's always a romaine or a strawberry or a lettuce or something around here in the Salinas Valley. And when you have valid real-time information, you're able to understand in great detail where your products are coming from. And if you have, you can then tie contaminated information back to the location specifically, down to the row and to the bed, plus or minus a couple of feet depending. So it becomes much more accurate than just writing off an entire field or even an entire farm or a truckload and so on. Again, food safety, payroll, worker productivity, and so on. Now in the U.S., that is highly controlled, but we see some applications in other markets outside of the very established U.S. market. So when you look at the size of the market, for example, with all the wet markets around the world, it would bring that level of transparency and traceability to any marketplace where people are supplying food or crops or just products to that are physical. Next slide, please, Lynette. So how it works, we basically connect all the attributes of movement in the field. So for example, the field crew activity, the employees on the chain, the producer or processor, their system is connected. And then we've got retail and distribution logistics that we can pull in as well. And then that gets transparently presented to the consumer. So for example, you'd have a lot of the products now have a little QR code on it. And if you tap that, then we can add all of the rest of the information to that. So then the retail consumer of the product can then see exactly where the product comes from. So if you were a berry purchaser, you would then be able to tell which field your berries came from and then what day it was picked. We could put by whom, but we've got some privacy issues that we've got to work out legally to make sure that that's okay, and so on. Next slide, please. This is an example of some worker tracking through some fields, just to, as one of the test demos that we've done in some of our field testing. Next slide. And this is a culmination of data based on some activity reports for some workers in one of the field trials. Next slide, please. Again, some more worker activity data. Next slide. This is a view of one of the employee applications whereby it would collect a bunch of data such as the clock in, clock out time, the date, the activity that they've done and the field that they're working in or the location, what type of activity they're doing and so on. And then that gets pushed to their payroll system. So then you can calculate all the payroll type activity data that's needed for agricultural workers, which is in some cases, it's very different from just a normal hourly or a salary worker. The ag business has some unique things to it. Next slide, please, Lynette. So, in essence, if I were to boil it down, what we're doing is we're saying, like, if you've got a box of produce and all of those supply chains used our system, we would be able to tell you exactly where those bits came from and a lot more than is currently available. Next slide, please. What are some of the benefits? I talked about the food safety traceability and QR codes. There are some processes and codes, some of the labeling that's used right now in agriculture and produce run through GS1, which is the world's largest supplier of coding and barcodes and so on for products and electronic article numbers. So what we've done is basically taken our software system to basically fit in on the existing infrastructure so that they don't have to go out and build something new. It's basically a plug and play thing where you use most of the existing things except the current software system, which you would basically use our system with some of the devices that you have, and then use a lot of the same vendors for your labels and that kind of thing. We just make it better. I talked about the worker monitoring, for example, to prevent fraud, waste, and abuse in terms of time tracking and so on. I talked about the food safety. One of the things we can track, in this time of COVID, is we can monitor the employees in the field if they're getting too close or too far apart from each other when they're out there working, because we collect the location data of the employees in the field, as well as supervisors and crews. And I also talked about contaminated food supply. If you need to do a recall, you can do certain products. And for example, if you have a truckload of 48 pallets and you've got 10 pallets that are bad, you can take those 10 and throw them in a bin, and then send the other 38 on their way, and save the chargeback fees from the retailers, and then also have less shortage of product in the field. Next slide, please. So where we're at right now, we're doing some field trials. We've got MVP, and we're going to be looking at going to not only the supply chain from the retailers, but also from the producers and in between to get acceptance of the product. We're pre-revenue. Our development lab is offshore. We still got field trials going in Q4 of this year and Q1 of next year. Challenges that we have include, how do we do a lot of this stuff and not get a lot of people sick because of COVID? a remote lab in India. A couple of the people got affected by COVID, so we've had some challenges there, but nothing unresolvable. And yeah, we'll be going for a round of funding in the near future, probably in Q1 of 21, and try to make some progress on that. So next slide. Okay, there we are. So just again, in light of time, trying to get through a lot of this very quickly. At this time, I'm happy to take questions. I think I saw some pop up on the chat, but
Yep.
Brad, you want to read them to me, and I'll be happy to contribute an answer.
I sure will. There's several here. One is, does Solare work with any floral growers in the Monterey Bay region?
Not yet, but we've been approached by some floral people as well, and we are not going to say no. We don't want to work with floral people.
Cool. So next one is, how do the workers engage in the software, or how is the data input into the system?
We've got ways of monitoring the workers with their mobile devices, and because that's the application that the workers use to see their productivity, and then we can monitor them from there. So we use existing, basically, cell phones. There are other people that'll give you a specific token or a BLE, a Bluetooth low energy device, but those are very expensive. Everybody's got a cell phone, so we just thought we'd put our tech in an app, and everybody can download it and go from there.
I wonder if anybody's ever calculated how much excess processing capacity exists in the network of cell phones across the planet.
Oh, that's one of our things, in that we thought that it's better to go to the workers. Well, not better, but one of the things is to go to the workers, because everybody has a cell phone. They don't need another device. You can just use that to do lots and lots and lots of things. And the technology's there, it exists, software is there. You just have to build a little application that'll help them to be better, and make sure they get paid what they should be getting paid.
Cool. And this is an interesting one. Can meat, dairy, bulk, and international foods be possibly traced? That might be different answers to each of those.
Yeah, so I'll take each one very, very quickly. Meat, yes. Dairy, yes. Dairy and bulk, actually, yes, but it depends for those two just because of the way that it's packaged. But we do have solutions for that. So it depends on the level of detail and the processing that's going to be done to the bulk materials. And dairy. International foods, absolutely. We were looking at a project with saffron to trace saffron, because saffron is actually very, very high value, and it grows in Afghanistan, in the very terrible conflict region, and that's something we were looking at with a potential partner and customer. But yes, international is open, because again, we're not limited by anything else other than there needs to be mobile service in or near the area for the system to work.
Very cool. Thank you very much. Any other?
Brad, do you mind if ask a quick question?
Sure, Michael.
Richard, I just have a question. Some of these fields, like, they don't have, there's either no service or no Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
How are you that's my first question, and then I have another one, but
sure.
I guess you can. The second question is, yeah, you can go ahead.
Yeah, so first question, no Wi-Fi is okay, because for the main portal of entry for some of the data, the devices actually capture the information and a lot of the locational information as well out of sync, and then and it stores it, and then soon as that gets into either cell signal or Wi-Fi, then it'll do a resync with the system, and all the information will be readily available.
And I guess my second question is, G. Craig Vachon, he's another VC in the area that some people may know, and he always tells me a story, or he has before. He's like, sometimes the CEO of Driscoll's will walk into Whole Foods, and he'll see a box of berries, and he'll know that those berries were not his. How does that happen, and how are you offering that peace of mind?
So So that helps to add to the product security and authenticity. However, in the supply chain, it's possible to switch the products out after we have imprinted where that product has come from. But there are a couple of other things that we've talked to some other people about in terms of the package labeling that would be able to, where the package would be sealed, and the seal, it has to do with the ink that's used to print the seal, where that cannot be forged. But that's a more technical conversation we can have offline.
Cool. There's another question about
Sure.
GPS in chat. I think I'll let you just respond to that in chat, or otherwise we should move on to our next
Sure.
presenter. Thank you very much for that. That was great.
You're welcome.
Okay, next up we have Carolyn Jones with Joby Aviation. If you're not familiar with Joby Aviation, you've been hiding under a rock somewhere, because Joby's big news in a really fascinating industry. One of the leaders, they've gotten some amazing funding recently, and they're right in our backyard over by the Marina Airport, although also up. And actually, you know, there are no fires by the Marina Airport. I think you need to move the rest of the facilities down. But I'm going to turn it over to you, Carolyn, to tell us about what y'all are up to.
Thank you so much, Brad. Yeah, so it's been really fun learning about the other activities and companies and organizations from the other presenters. So thanks so much for sharing that. This has been a great event. I've really enjoyed learning about what other people in the community are up to. I'll be giving the hardware startup spin tonight as I talk about Joby. And if you want to skip to the next slide, Lynette. Just a little context for me and Joby. As you mentioned, my name is Carolyn Jane, and I'm the 2.0 aircraft program manager at Joby. So I've been managing the build and moving into managing also the execution of data collection on our 2.0 program as we look forward to our next iteration of product. I'm also a Venture for America Fellow. That's where I got first started engaging with entrepreneurship and learning about how to successfully run startups. Joby, a couple of facts before I get into the big picture. It's founded by Jobin Viviert. He is a local, born and raised in Santa Cruz Mountains, and a very strong personality. I find people all over who went to high school with him or met him one way or another. He's a fabulous person and really engaged in the community here in Santa Cruz and Monterey area. Joby was founded in 2009 with the goal of revolutionizing mobility. And we're a pretty eclectic team making history in Bonnie Doon. So as was mentioned, we have an office in Marina. We also have an office up in Bonnie Doon, and also an office in San Carlos on the peninsula. So we're a little bit spread out, but definitely trying to stay close to home and in this area. Next slide, please. So a little bit about how Joby came to be. I think it's a pretty well-known fact that our cities are built around cars and pavement. We have roads everywhere. Parking is something that construction is constantly strategizing around. Bypasses, bridges, cars are very much at the center of our communities. And along with that come a number of side effects, some of which are fabulous, like, total autonomy to travel and move as you wish. But with that comes air quality degradation, noise, and of course, the frustration of sitting in traffic. And I think we're all, especially being in the Bay Area, familiar with having to plan around traffic, but also regularly having to just endure the frustrations of traffic. So because so many people are so affected by long commutes and just generally sitting in traffic all the time, Jobin and his team decided they wanted to tackle that by creating a way not just to get where you want to go faster, but to avoid our entire road infrastructure. Next slide, please. And so we did that by creating this vehicle along with some of its predecessors. This is the S4. It is a vertical takeoff and landing airplane, basically a flying car. It carries 4 passengers, can fly over 200 miles an hour, and is basically, in our minds, our communities and really society's ticket to changing the way we think about transportation, away from needing a car to being able to skip directly to where you want to go via these aircraft. Next slide, please. So our main mission at Joby is to save 1 billion people 1 hour per day. So that comes back to that really strong desire to get people away from having to sit in traffic and spend their time waiting. As we've seen this year, especially with COVID, political movements around racial justice, and also locally with wildfires, our time is so incredibly precious, and there's so many problems in this world that we all as entrepreneurs want to be tackling. It is just tragic that so many people spend so much time sitting in cars. So with this vehicle, our goal is to alleviate that pain and get more people out in the world solving problems, not sitting behind the wheel of a car. So a few things to know about this vehicle in particular. It has 150 miles of range. So think of it like a commuter vehicle, less like a commercial jet. You're not going to fly this thing across the Pacific, but you would take it on a quick trip to Berkeley or San Jose or somewhere for a meeting or a conference, maybe your everyday commute, and less of like a weekend getaway. It goes about 200 miles an hour, so it's pretty quick, a lot faster than cars and a lot faster than the traffic on the Bay Bridge. It has 5 seats, so it would allow for 4 passengers, and there will be a pilot on board as well. It's 100 times quieter than a conventional aircraft. I don't actually know if I've mentioned it, but this is an electric vehicle, as you might have suspected. So, and a lot of the team's energy, especially in the early days, went into designing propellers and aircraft structures that would minimize sound. So that paired with the electric drivetrain makes for an extremely quiet vehicle that gives it access to areas that you really wouldn't want an airplane or a helicopter flying over, such as residential neighborhoods, perhaps. This is a VTOL and CTOL aircraft, so it's capable of landing like a traditional airplane on a runway, or landing vertically, on a pad like a helicopter. And a lot of our engineering work has gone into reducing failure points and making sure this is an absolutely safe vehicle that won't harm either the people riding in it or the neighborhoods and places that it's flying over. Safety is Joby's #1 priority. It's been incredible, especially again this year with the fires and the pandemic, really seeing how the company continuously prioritizes safety of its employees and its future customers. Next slide. So a little bit about our journey as a startup. This is a really different startup than I've ever been in. It's totally different from, wearables, handheld technology, even like personal vehicles. Working in the aerospace industry, you're working on a much extended time scale and also need for resources than your average startup. So this project got kicked off in 2015 and has progressed through 3 iterations of vehicles so far. And we're hoping to have these first vehicles commercially available in 2023. Each iteration of the design has all the good stuff that goes with your usual product revision cycle in startups. There's tons of data collection, tons of user testing, and we're always trying to gather as much as we can and simultaneously start on the next product. So it's definitely a fast moving startup in that way. Next slide, please. Fortunately, we've been extremely lucky and I think and have captured an incredible base of financial and mentorship support. This is a list of our investors. I think this list also speaks volumes about the incredible dedication of our leadership, and also speaks to the excitement I think the world has about ideas like this. So we're really fortunate in this difficult financial time to have pretty stable support from our investors and incredible companies to learn from. This is certainly, if you're interested in a startup where you can find great examples and mentors and people to learn from, I have to say I've never seen investors so engaged in the success of a company as I have at Joby. So next slide. The other thing that is really notable about Joby is the team of people. It's definitely what keeps me motivated and happy to go to work, and what makes me so confident that I've put my faith and my career in the right place. The people at Joby are fabulous, as I've mentioned. We're really invested in keeping our people in our community safe and in designing incredible products that will hopefully reach billions of people one day. And on that note, next slide. What we really need right now, for those of you who are interested, are more wonderful teammates. As I mentioned, working in hardware, in startups, and especially in the aerospace industry, we have a long amount of time. Like it will take a very long time for us to go through all the design iterations and get this product where it needs to be. And with that, we need incredible support from incredible, smart, dedicated people, and people who are really drawn to that startup lifestyle. So here's a brief list of some of the roles we're hiring for. I know with the state of the economy, there's a lot of people looking for work. So if you or your friends, your peers might be interested, please encourage them to apply. And if you go to the next slide, we have that website there will take you to our application page where you can learn more and submit resumes if you know people who are interested. Thank you.
Very cool. That's really excellent. And we can tell how engaging it was by the fact that there's like 3 columns of questions here. So you hit the jackpot on this one. Some of those.
Yeah, I see we have a couple people from the company on. I see Brett Goldsmith is one of my coworkers, and he's going through and starting to respond to some questions. But if you want to fire some off as well, happy to answer them. But also, thank you, Brett.
So there's an interesting one that would be an interesting discussion, because it's and it ties back to me that aircraft are a fast way to get from here to there, but it takes longer to get to and through the airport than you spend on the aircraft in many situations. So, and there's a question here about heliports, and so how does that interface look with in your picture of the future here?
Yeah, that's a great point, and one that there's so many different facets. It's hard to cover it all in a short time, but really great question. So these vehicles would be operating out of heliports and parking lots and basically access points that do not require people to go through airports. This vehicle will be functioning as like a taxi service. So it would not require all that infrastructure that traditional aircraft do.
Very cool. So that interface time would be shortened considerably.
Yeah, it'd be minimal.
Yeah.
And even the time between booking and getting to the location would be minimal. You don't have to plan months in advance like you would for a traditional commercial aircraft. This would be something where you can book it day of, get to your spot, and get on your flight to wherever you need to go. So more like a car, less like an airplane.
Yeah, and so I'm skimming through the questions, and Brett is picking them off as fast as I can read them. So he's being very efficient there. There are questions about the recharging. This is an all-electric vehicle, right?
Yes.
So, and how many hours will it go, or minutes, whatever is the right scale, on a single charge?
So this vehicle will be able to do between 1 and 2 hours of flight time per charge. So I think I mentioned in one of the slides, the range is about 200 miles. And so again, if you can get, from here to Berkeley or, kind of within a large urban area, but you're not going to be going far beyond that. And part of that is due to range limitations. Fortunately, the recharge time is significantly less than an hour. So you can pretty easily take you somewhere and then charge up quickly and go and get the next person.
Yeah, I was thinking less in terms of how far it can go than thinking about the uptime. How much time can it spend in the air actually going places versus how much time it has to spend on the ground being recharged?
Yeah, I've been in EVs for a while, and this is definitely the best use time to charge time ratio I've ever seen. The plane can fly significantly longer than it takes to charge. I can give you that much.
Let's see, is there anything else that...
Brett hasn't already cleaned up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, are you looking for funding?
I mean, everyone is always looking for funding, but we are actually fortunate in that we closed our Series C earlier this year, right before the pandemic really consumed the United States economy. So our Series C is closed, but I can give you our legal department's information if you'd like to inquire further on where we are funding-wise.
Well, my question is, are you looking for funding? That probably doesn't require your legal department.
I don't personally know, which is why I would refer you to them. I know we're not in the middle of a funding series, but I don't know what the intermediate efforts look like right now.
Very cool. Well, thank you very much, Carolyn. And I hugely appreciate that you were willing to hang in there in the face of that up in Bonnie Doon. The fires are right now actively threatening your facility up there, right?
Mm-hmm. And the homes of so many coworkers and friends, as I'm sure we can all relate to.
We wish you absolutely the best of luck with
But hopefully you can fly them all out down to Monterey.
That's the goal, one day.
One day. The problem is that you need to be.
No, I mean like tomorrow morning.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. So Lynette, let's roll forward because I think that brings us to the end of tonight's program. Those were fabulous presenters. I want to thank all of our presenters, Michael and Scott and Richard and Carolyn, for engaging presentations and really cool sense of what's going on in the area. There's a continued huge growth in startup companies, really interesting startup companies, and the smaller startup companies that are the fabric, the backbone of our communities. So, this is really the kind of stuff that gets me out of bed every morning working on all this. I encourage everybody to join us at the Startup Investment and Community Capital Expo, where you'll be able to hear some really great talks and what do we call those things? Panel discussions and pitches by companies and hear the questions that the investors have for them. And our next time, oh, I should say off of this slide, if you're interested in presenting your company at the Tech Meetup, please reach out to us. We're always looking for fun companies to present. It could be not so fun companies, serious companies also, but make it fun anyway. So please join us. And what do we got next? We have a slide about our next meeting. Our next meeting will be in October. Thanks to our sponsors, the IP Society, Angel to Exit, and Fred Cohen, Blue Tech Valley, and of course us. And we have more. Next Tech Meetup will be in October, the second Tuesday in October. We'll be featuring the winners of the ZHack hackathon at that. And we'll also be looking at some of the companies that presented at the Startup Investment and Community Capital Expo. So check out our newsletter. You can sign up for it on the link there. Maybe we can get that link into chat. And I see chat still being active, which is great. The newsletter link is in chat. Thank you, Mary Jo. And there's also a link there to register for next month's Tech Meetup. And with that.
Hey, Brad.
Yes, sir.
So we don't have a way that I can find to save the chat. If you could save the chat and make it available, because otherwise when you close the session, it just goes away.
Understood. And so one thing we will be doing is posting a recap of this session on our website. And I have my Zoom set up so that it automatically saves the chat. So we will have that saved. And I'll have Lynette figure out a way to get it out to everybody. Because that's why I have Lynette, because she solves the hard problems.
There you go. Perfect.
Just sign up for the newsletter and you'll get it.
There we go. Okay. Thank you all very much. Have a very great and safe evening, and keep Joby in your thoughts as they battle with the fires going on. Obviously, the Santa Cruz complex is still going.